We're visiting this evening Sister Ameenah in Orpington in Kent in order to listen from her about her journey to Islam. So please join us. Sister Ameenah, we've come today to listen to your story. How did your journey to Islam begin?
So my journey to Islam began back in 2012. I was doing a lot of research about religion. I originally came from a Christian background, so my family were predominantly Christian. We never really used to go to church though, so I got to 30 something and decided that I wanted to go back to church. I wanted to start building my relationship with God. So I wasn't too sure about church. So I started to research other religions. Everything except Islam though. So I happened to have a friend who I hadn't seen for years. And I was visiting another friend one day and I heard somebody call out to me. They called out to me in my government name, Cheryl, and they called me. And I turned around and I saw a sister, and she was getting out of her car, and she had 6 kids with her, and she was like, Cheryl, and I was like, I looked at her and I was, hi. She said, it's Stephanie.
Oh, you didn't recognize her?
I didn't recognize her because she had on a niqab. I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you for. How long has it been? Maybe 10 years. So then obviously we caught up for a little while outside. And then I come to realize that she was visiting, she lived opposite the friend that I was actually visiting.
She was her neighbor?
She was her neighbor. This friend was my best friend and I was always around her house and I didn't know that Stephanie lived opposite her this whole time. So it was like, wow, okay. So
Stephanie goes to when? School time? Since when were you friends?
Since college, late college, so maybe 18, 19, I knew her from around that age. And so it had been over.
So you hadn't seen her for 20 years maybe?
Since we was in our 20s. So the last time I saw her was maybe when I was about 24. And she wasn't Muslim that time. So when I saw her, it was a big shock. She's got kids. And the last time I saw her, she had 6 kids with her. And she was Muslim, fully covered in the niqab and everything. So we got talking. And because I do hair, she asked me if I could come and do her daughter's hair. So when we went round...
You are a hairdresser?
Yeah, I'm a hairdresser. So we arranged for me to go round to do 3 of her daughter's hair at the time and her own. And she started talking to me about Islam. So she started talking to me about Islam and I kept saying, every time I left her, I kept saying to myself, this girl's she wants me to convert to Islam. I'm not converting to Islam.
Although you were searching?
Although I was searching. But like I said, the one thing I hadn't researched was Islam. I hadn't looked at it at all and I don't know why. But so yeah, there was this one particular day. She had given me, by this point, she'd already given me a small Quran and she'd said to me, take that and read it when you get a chance. And when you do go to read it though, she said to me, make sure you have a bath. So obviously at the time, she probably wanted to tell me that I need to make wudu. But I think the easiest thing for her to tell me was to just make a bath. Just have a bath and at least be clean. So I said, okay. So I took this little Quran and I was looking at it for a while.
A translation?
It was a translated one, yeah. It had Arabic in there and English. And I just put it down on my bedside table and I said to myself, okay, I'll come back to this one day. I'll come back to it. I'm not really going to do that right now. Anyway, she had arranged for me to come round this one particular Friday. So what happened? Actually, before that, what happened was I had a dream. I had a really strange dream, and I'm a person, I've always had strange dreams since I was young. So I had this dream, and it was like I was lying on my bed, and the room was completely peaceful. It was so peaceful. I'd never felt the atmosphere so peaceful before. And I was lying on my bed and I was staring at the ceiling. And in the dream, what happened was a ball of light came emerging from the ceiling. It was like a blue ball of light, and I could still see it in my head, like so vividly. It just slowly started floating down. So I'm in my dream, I'm lying on my bed, I'm watching this ball, and I'm like, wow, what is that? That is so beautiful. It's floating down. It's just floating down so slowly and softly. And then it literally went into my body, and it burst and filled my body all the way to my tips of my toes, to the top of my head. And then I just felt a wave of peace.
Subhanallah.
And I've never felt that before. And when I woke up, I remembered only that. And I knew that I dreamed a whole dream of other stuff that happened, and I could only remember that. And usually what I would do is get on the phone to the same best friend that lived opposite Stephanie. I would get on the phone to her and I'd be like, guess what, I had this dream last night, and this happened and that happened.
Was she Christian?
She's Christian. And obviously before that, before coming to Islam, I didn't know you weren't meant to talk about your dreams. So I was always talking about my dreams, nightmares, good dreams, bad dreams. I was always talking about the dreams that I had because they were always so vivid. So this one, I didn't tell anyone about it. I didn't feel the need to speak about it. I was on the phone to Stephanie. She rang me. She was asking me, have you read the Quran yet? No, I haven't read it. And I said, oh, but do you know what though? I had this dream. So I told her about the dream. And she was like, oh my gosh, sis, do you know what that is? I was like, what? She said, that's Noor, that's Noor. She kept saying this word. And I was like, what is Noor? That's the light of Islam. She was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to call my husband. I'm going to call the imam. I need to check. I'm going to call you back. So she ran off the phone, called me back half an hour later, and she was like, it is, I was right. It's the Noor of Islam. You're so blessed. Oh my gosh, it's barakah, sis, it's barakah. So, and I just remember I was laughing at the time, like, this girl's mad. I don't know what she's on about. So, that same conversation, we arranged for me to come and do hair again, and it was a Friday. So I remember I went round there, and she put on this program. She put on this program called, what was it? It was Khalid Yassin, The Purpose of Life. Have you seen it? It's
a TV program.
It's a documentary. It's a talk. It's a 3-part talk. It's a very long 3-part talk. But she put on the first part and said to me, watch this. So as I was doing the hair, I was watching it. And I was like, okay, this is very deep. And it had me thinking, nah, you can't watch this program and then not consider what it would be to be a Muslim.
So you couldn't ignore it?
I couldn't ignore it. He said so much things that were just profound and made me think about life in general, the purpose of life. That's what the program's called, The Purpose of Life. And after the program, she was like, so what did you think of that? So we was having this conversation, we was having a debate. And I'm the queen of questions. So I was just like, yeah, but what if? Yeah, but how come? Yeah, but why do I have to? Yeah, but. So she was like, I think I asked her, I can't remember what question it was, but she couldn't answer it. So at this time, her husband was in the bedroom and he was getting dressed to go to Jummah. So she went and called Dawood, and he didn't come in the room because he knew I was in there doing hair. But he was in the corridor. So she said to me, ask him the question. So I asked him the question, whatever it was. And from the corridor, he started answering the question. So then I had another question. And then I had another question.
He could have missed Jum'ah.
He did miss Jum'ah. He missed Jum'ah. He was there for must have been about 2 hours. And he was just giving me dawah, giving me dawah, giving me dawah. And then in the end, he was like, you know, you're going to have to take your shahada because there's nothing else there. What else are you going to ask? And I was like, you know what, I know what you're saying, but it just feels like a big change. It was like, really and truly, it's not. Because everything that you said, you believe that there's one God. You believe that the Prophet Muhammad is his messenger. You believe in all the other messengers. You believe in the angels. You believe in the books. You believe in the prophets. You believe in all of this. And this is what Islam is. This is what Islam is. The Shahada. And then he broke down what the Shahada was. And then he said to me that all of what you do in Christianity, going to the church and getting baptized and all these things, that's not what it is. That what we do in Islam is you make a declaration. It's like a contract between you and Allah, and you are literally saying that you believe. You're saying what you've already said. You've already said today, but you're just saying it to Allah, and we're the witnesses. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, and then I took my shahada.
Was he a convert himself, or was he?
Yeah, he was revert. They were both reverts.
You know, the interesting thing about your experience is that it wasn't just one sudden thing. You started yourself searching, you started thinking, and then a few things happened that led you that way.
Yeah.
Including the dream.
Yeah. I've always, like I said, because I grew up in a Christian household, I've always believed in God. Always believed in God. And I remember as a teenager, as a child, I would lie in my bed when I wasn't able to go to sleep, and I would have conversations with God. I would talk to God about, you know, the little things that I took a cookie today and I shouldn't have taken it. I'm really sorry. please don't punish me. You know, I would have these conversations, and as I got older, I would still have these conversations with God. I would pray the prayer that I was taught. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. But to me, that wasn't enough. And I would have conversations and say prayers in my own words. Obviously, like how we make dua now, make dua in our own words. And I always had a problem with the understanding that Jesus was the Son of God. I didn't get it. And
you mean when you were Christian?
As a Christian, I didn't get it. It didn't make any sense to me, which is why when I decided that I wanted to go back to church, or when I wanted to start to improve my relationship with God as an adult, it didn't sit right with me going back to church. In fact, I did actually go back to a church. And the funny experience that I had was that I was asked to come and give my testimony. And when I came and gave my testimony, there'd been about another 3 people who'd got up and given their testimony, and they were all, as they say, in Jesus' name, in Jesus' name. And I couldn't bring myself to say that in my testimony. I kept saying, I thank God, I thank God, I thank God for bringing me here. I thank God for showing me and guiding me. I couldn't bring myself. There
is a fixed format for that testimony? I mean, what does it mean?
There isn't a fixed formula. You just go up and you say why, what brought you back here, what's brought you back to.
So this is for people who return to church?
It was that particular church at the time. That particular church, they did this it's like every Friday.
Was it Anglican?
More Pentecostal. To be honest, I couldn't really tell you what type of church it was, because I was introduced by a guy who I'd met on the road, and that was a funny situation as well. That was a really strange situation. And the reason why that happened was because the day before I'd had a really low day. I was having a month of being, I think I was at my lowest.
That's the day before you returned to church?
The day before I met the guy who
took you back to church.
Took me back to church. I was having a really low day. I was having...
You were depressed?
I was depressed. I was so low. I was so low that I was contemplating suicide.
Oh.
I was that low.
To that extent?
Yeah.
Were you not living with your family, with your parents?
I was living with my children's father at the time. We was in a long-term relationship, and it was very bad. It was a very strained relationship. Not in the way of don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there was anything violent or anything going on. As men who are maybe not believing men do, they cheat. He was cheating, and I had become very unconfident in myself. I'd lost all confidence in myself. I just wasn't myself at all. I was really depressed. I was low, and I literally had been contemplating that. The only thing that kept me going at the time was my children. So that day, I'd had an experience which was so compelling for me. I came into my front room. I was crying quietly because the kids were actually playing in the front room and they were young at the time. But I came into the front room to sit down because their presence was what was stopping me from doing what I'd telling myself to do. So I came into the front room to be with them. And in my heart, I was asking God to please help me. I need your help now. And I sat down on my chair, on my sofa at the time, and I think I was so deflated. I was just like, please, I need your help now. And at that moment, the window was, I had blinds and they were closed because it was quite a sunny day. But the sun, I felt the sun, I closed my eyes, but I felt the sun move in front of the blinds. And it was almost like the heat from the sun was so strong that it was covering me. And it felt like Allah telling me at the time, I'm here. That's all I could hear in my mind at the time was, I'm here. And I immediately felt better. I immediately felt tears of joy coming into my eyes. So I was crying, but then I felt them changing to tears of joy.
You asked him for relief and he provided relief.
Alhamdulillah.
Subhanallah.
And at that moment, I called the children. I was like, come. And they was like, what's wrong, Mommy? I was like, just come. Because I just wanted them to be part of the moment. And I just hugged them. And the next day, I felt so much better, so much lighter. And I went down the road. I remember I went down the road to, I can't remember what I was going to do, shopping or something. But I went down the road, and as I was going down the high street, I bumped into this guy who was preaching. He was preaching the word and Christian preaching. And he called me. He said, sister, come. You know, you look like somebody who would join in this conversation right now. He started talking to me. And immediately he said to me, what do you think of Jesus and blah, 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 da, da, da. And we started having this debate. So I started saying to him, well, I don't feel like Jesus is the Son of God. I've always felt like he's a messenger. That's what I call him. And that was how I referred to Jesus at the time. I was just, this Son of God business, it doesn't make sense to me. 3 in 1, Trinity, doesn't make sense to me. You can't make it make sense to me. I don't know how he convinced me, but he did. So in the end, I went to the church. And like I said, that day I was giving my testimony. I couldn't say those words in Jesus' name. And I felt like, because I didn't, once I went and sat down, I felt like the whole audience was waiting for me to say those 3 words. And because I didn't get the reception that everybody else got. And because of that, I left and I didn't go back.
So that it was just that once?
It was just that once. I left and I didn't go back because I was saying to myself, you're supposed to be Christians. This is supposed to be fellowship. And I feel like you've all cut me out or shunned me because I didn't say what you wanted me to say. No, that's not how it works for me. And I didn't go back.
Now, when you decided to take the Shahada, you made that shift.
Yeah.
What did it really mean to you in your life? Was it a major change?
as soon as I took the Shahada, I felt a sense of, I've done the right thing. I just felt like this was right. That was the right thing. For once, you've done the right thing. Not for once, but you don't always get that feeling of confirmation straight away. Sometimes you have to be in the situation, and then later on, the feeling of, oh, this feels right, comes. But straight away, I got that feeling. And straight away, I felt the need to put on hijab and an abaya. I didn't have one, obviously. I had to go and get them. So Stephanie, she took me to Streatham Mosque, and we went to the shop that was next door. It used to be next door, it's not there anymore. And we bought an abaya and a hijab. And she took me into the mosque and she showed me how to pray. And I started going to events with her. And I'd say the first 6 months was pretty easy until I started coming under the pressure of family and friends, non-Muslim family and friends, who were now questioning me, because obviously I think they thought that it was a phase and they were waiting for the phase to pass.
The non-Muslim friends and family. Mm-hmm. Now, who were they? I mean, your parents, your siblings?
So my dad in particular and my brothers, not all of my brothers, I've got 3 younger brothers, but one of them in particular was very much against the choice that I'd made, and my dad made it clear that he was against the choice that I'd made. My mum was fine. My mum was absolutely fine. She accepted what I wanted to do, and she was interested to hear and learn about it. But my dad wasn't. So every time I went around there was a debate, there was an argument. And I was very much on the defensive as a new Muslim. I was on the defensive. And it took me a while to get out of the need to defend and debate. I mean, I've been Muslim 8 years now, so I think that left me a little while ago. And that happened because you start to establish your connection with Allah, and you start to establish your relationship with Allah. And it no longer becomes about what other people think and the validation of other people, because it only becomes about the validation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Are you still in communication with your family and friends?
Yeah, definitely.
You are?
Yeah.
On good terms?
Yes,
that's good. That's good news.
Yeah.
Now, how about the Muslim community? Did you feel lonely converting, or you felt you were welcomed by the established community?
I would say yes and no. There were moments when I felt alone, but at the same time, I think I was isolating myself anyway. And that was probably because at the time, my nafs and not practicing completely correctly, you feel that you don't want to be judged, so you don't. Well, let me speak for myself.
So you stay aloof.
Yeah. For the most part, though, I've definitely been welcomed. I think anywhere I've gone to, I mean, I know you're not supposed to have favourites, but my favourite masjid is Lewisham Masjid.
It's okay. There's nothing wrong with having a favourite masjid.
I think that's where I've been welcomed the most. And in that masjid, there's such a variety of cultures, and it's nice. It's nice to be among different people and be welcomed by the variety of, because everybody's looking at you as a sister in Islam. Do you get what I mean? I've been into masjids and felt that I'm not part of the community. Brixton Masjid, for example.
Brixton Masjid is mostly Nigerian, is it, or?
It's mostly Black, African, Caribbean Muslims. So you would assume that maybe I'd feel more at home there. but I didn't.
It's really not the race, it's the attitude, isn't it?
It's the attitude, and that's definitely what it was for me. I'm somebody anyway who I don't have a lot of friends. I like to have a small group of friends. I don't go into big crowds, so I keep my circle small. But as I've opened up in the Muslim community, I've now begun to develop good friendships with a lot of sisters from all over, and it's nice to be able to have different conversations with people, and you relate on different levels. You relate about different things on different levels. You know?
How about this neighborhood? Do you feel at home here?
Do you know, I've only been living here for 3 years. So I'm originally from South London. So for me, South London is still home. And I go back there regularly. South London is still home. But it's okay. It's all right here. Then there's a couple of Muslims up here. There's a sister that lives just downstairs. I see her quite regularly. I'm not close with her like that, but we see each other and we have, you know, the morning chit chat and the evening chit chat or whatever. And that's nice. This area, I wouldn't say there's a lot of Muslims here. So I like to go home to South London where there's Muslims.
You feel more at home.
Yeah, even to go to East London, it's Muslim central.
Yeah, true. Especially Whitechapel area. Well, Sister Ameenah, thank you very much. It's been really a great pleasure talking to you.
Jazakallah khairan for talking to me.